Johnathan Majors, that one's a whole...
And who's Johnathan Majors again?
This dude. Apparently he has a...
Oh, the girlfriend who's like has him out on trial right now for possible assault.
Strangulation.
Somebody I know was like saying, "Oh, who was that? Who was I listening to? Oh, I think it was the Joe Budden. They were talking about how like she was in the club 2 seconds later, and then Tiffany Haddish had made a comment about like she was basically defending, and she's just like, "Oh, how could it be when she was out in the club?
Right.
How could she have a broken hand if she was out in the club and she was so abused, basically?" Right? And it was like, it doesn't matter. It was like the assault was made. The cops had been called. There was an issue of everything. And they were aware. That's the reason why all that was done. So, yeah, man. Shout out to Melissa Ford for being a real one.
Because she kept it on...
Mm-hmm.
Even the fact that apparently there's more women coming out, that's a little...
Mm-hmm. A little concerning.
That's
I'm very concerned when it comes to like how do we allow this to continue? That is my question.
What do you mean continue?
Like if a man is abusive, how do we allow this man to continue to abuse people and no one says anything?
Until the...
Right? Like how do we just act like it doesn't happen? Or are we aware? Like, are we aware that some people are abusive? And then we just turn a blind eye because we're like, it's none of my business. Let me drink my water. Or are we like, we just don't know or can recognize what abuse is?
Oh, okay.
And then when abuse does happen, we're so used to it and it's so normalized in our culture that it's like abuse. Baby girl, that's normal. That's what you're so... That's life. You know? And does that mean that we're just not a healed society?
I can see that being that way. Like it not being a healed society.
Yeah. Like we don't know... We can't recognize when abuse is happening. And we don't know how to actually respond to it. Because maybe, you know, a good portion of people have been abused. So how do you respond to somebody who never had retreatment in their own personal affairs?
Right.
How could they help somebody else when they never got the help for themselves?
I mean, cause you gotta question it when you enter a relationship, and things seem to be going fine, and then all of a sudden like the little fights start happening, and then it's almost like conflict is like being sober to them. To some people, I should say.
It's like normalized.
It's normalized, and then I think that's when you start digging in, inquiring about your significant other, your partner, and you're like, hey, dude, like, what happened? What happened in your past relationships?
Yeah,
how's your relationship with your parents? How's your parents' relationship? And then
what did you see growing up?
Like, what do you see?
You know, and some people may never have seen abuse itself. It could have been behind closed doors, but the transgressions of abuse could have lingered, and that was very prominent.
Right.
You know, like maybe you would never have witnessed your mom getting beaten or your dad getting beaten and thrown down a flight of stairs.
Right.
But tomorrow you're seeing your mom or your dad covered up and hiding a bruise. And forever, there's always this just magical bruise that just shows up somewhere, somehow. Right? So you're not actually seeing the abuse, but you're seeing the aftermath and you're seeing the transgressions of like how the person responds to it. So that may be something that you're familiar with. And like, in order for you to be familiar with that, you'd kind of seek it out to see how that even if it's unconscious.
Right.
You'd probably be like, my mom was always the type of person who would cover herself like this. That's familiar to me. So you then look for ways to find that. And if you notice how it ends up being, you notice maybe it's after a fight. Maybe it's after this. That's when it happens. Like, you know, like...
Right.
And that's a trauma right there. Like, but people don't recognize it. Right? So that's where my question stirs on that. Are we so unhealed?
Again, I mean, yeah. Yeah, even, yeah, like COVID is something where, like, it's even, it's like 10 times worse now.
For domestic abuse?
Yeah. Even, one thing, like, I glanced at today, some people just stay together just because the rent's too high.
Yeah.
Which is, like, probably one which is, like, a part of our Toronto segment.
It's like, yo.
Everyone in general, too, because, like...
Excuse me. Just imagine you're staying with somebody just because the rent is too high, but they're wailing on you. Someone's gonna die. Ain't no rent high enough for me to accept any type of abuse.
You just run into a room somewhere. You're just like, I'm just gonna leave everything and just run into a room.
Like what? I'm staying in that room.
Pay $1,200 for a room. It is what it is.
In that room. And I'm calling the cops.
Oh, I mean,
what?
You call it, yeah. You call the cops for us, but
there's no way. I'm not here to fight nobody. I'm not here to put up with nobody and their BS. Keep your